According to the Catholic News Agency and EWTN News, quote, Archbishop Ignatius Kagama is concerned over the seemingly endless violence against Christians that claimed at least 58 lives this past weekend and hundreds of others in recent weeks. It is our prayer, he said, that something definitive will be done to stop the situation that is inhuman. Shockingly, that was more than a dozen years ago and part of my opening remarks at a hearing that I held on July 10th, 2012, one of several hearings, 8 in all, on religious persecution in Nigeria. And since then, things have only gotten worse. 1 year later, in 2013, I visited Archbishop Kagama in Jos, Nigeria. We visited churches, 5 of them that had been recently firebombed by Boko Haram, and spent hours listening to survivors tell their stories. Despite their numbing loss and pain, I was absolutely amazed at the survivors about their faith, very deep faith, their courage and the resilience. They were not going to quit, but they were looking to the government for help, and it was not coming. I also met with an evangelical believer named Habila Adamu. Dragged from his home by Boko Haram terrorists, he was ordered to renounce his faith. With an AK-47 pressed to his face, he was asked, "Are you ready to die as a Christian?" With extraordinary courage, Habila answered, "Yes, I am ready to die as a Christian." He was asked a second time, and he repeated his answer. His wife was pleading, "Please don't kill my husband." And yet he said, "Yes, I am ready to die as a Christian." This time, the terrorist pulled the trigger. A bullet ripped through Habila's face. He crumpled to the ground, bleeding profusely, left for dead. By some miracle, he survived. I met him in an IDP camp in Jos. I asked him to come to Washington to tell his story. He did. And at the congressional hearing, he said this to our subcommittee, this subcommittee: "I am alive because God wants you to have this message. Knowing Christ is so much deeper than merely knowing Boko Haram's story of hate and intolerance." He closed his testimony with this: "Do everything you can to end this ruthless religious persecution, but know Christ first." To the end, everything he did was to witness, to radiate his love for God, but he was also calling on us to get involved and do something. Since then, however, the wanton violence against Christians in Nigeria has grown significantly worse. A couple of days ago, the Pillar Catholic reported, and I quote, "While Christians are receiving ashes last Wednesday to begin Lent, news broke out in Nigeria that a priest had been brutally murdered by kidnappers who had stormed his rectory the night before and kidnapped him. With deep sorrow and righteous indignation, I condemn in the strongest terms the relentless and tragic wave of kidnappings targeting priests, pastoral agents, and the faithful," Bishop Kundi said in a March 7th, just a couple days ago, press conference, which expressed outrage over the kidnaps and the brutal murder of his priests. According to the sources in the diocese, Father Sylvester was bound by his kidnappers. He was shot in the head, and I saw the picture. It is heartbreaking to look at. Shot at close range with an assault rifle, and according to the officials of his diocese. The systematic slaughter and abuse of Nigerian believers must stop. Delay is denial and a death sentence to so many. One of our distinguished witnesses today, Bishop Wilfred Anagbe of the Diocese of Makurdi, Nigeria, traveled a long distance to be with us today and will testify, and this is from his testimony. Militant Fulani herdsmen are terrorists. They steal and vandalize. They kill and boast about it. They kidnap and rape, and they enjoy total impunity for this from the elected officials. None of them, I repeat his quote, none of them have been arrested and brought to justice. In December of 2020, President Trump designated Nigeria as a country of particular concern, only to be reversed without justification by Secretary Blinken in November of 2021. And I know I asked him at hearings. I asked him privately, but also asked him at open hearings, why? Never got a good answer. Religious leaders in Nigeria were outraged by the Secretary's decision. One Nigerian bishop challenged the Secretary and said, "Christian persecution is more intense than ever." And that was Bishop Mamza. And Genocide Watch has called Nigeria a killing field of defenseless Christians, quote unquote. Yet the government of Nigeria has failed to make progress against religiously motivated persecution of Christians, despite religious freedom being enshrined as an essential human right in their constitution. Likewise, Nigerian legal framework supports pluralism at both federal and state levels, but glaring contradictions exist, especially with laws that criminalize blasphemy, some even carrying the death penalty. The U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom, USCIRF, was, quote, appalled that the State Department did not redesignate Nigeria as a country of particular concern. USCIRF had recommended, and we have the former chairman here, Tony Perkins, had recommended this designation 4 years in a row, from 2021 to 2024, and said, quote, there is no justification as to why the State Department continues to fail to redesignate Nigeria as a CPC. And again, CPC, as you know, carries significant sanctions, a whole broad array of sanctions that the President and the Secretary of State are empowered to level on a country that commits persecution. When the former Secretary of State Blinken held a joint press conference with the Nigerian Foreign Minister on January 23, 2024, following the Christmas Eve massacre, which targeted killings by radical Fulani terrorists and took the lives of hundreds of Christians, he did offer his condolences, and I watched it. I was glad to see that. But we need to take it beyond just saying, I feel sorry for you. And these Christian killings recurred the following year, just 3 months ago. Make no mistake, these ongoing attacks are based on religion and diverting attention from it tonight. So let me just say parenthetically, I tried for 3 years to get the Clinton administration to designate Boko Haram as an FTO, of the Obama administration, as a foreign terrorist organization. I held hearing after hearing, and they wouldn't do it. On the day I was marking up my legislation to do this, just that, State Department said, oh, we're going to designate them an FTO. And after all the crimes they were committing, later it was the Chibok girls, it was all the other atrocities being committed by Boko Haram, and they wouldn't even give them the FTO status so we could start investigating where they get their money, their weapons, and the like. Make no mistake, all of these attacks are based on religion, like I said, and diverting attention from it denies that we have seen with our own eyes. This is religious cleansing. It needs to stop, and the perpetrators need to be brought to justice. Last year, the House Foreign Affairs did adopt my resolution, HRES 82, calling on the Biden administration to redesignate Nigeria as a country of particular concern. It passed exactly 1 year ago, almost a year ago, in the committee, but it never came to the floor. While I strongly believe that President Trump will again designate Nigeria as a CPC and do much more to assist the persecuted church, including the outreach to the Nigerian president, Tinubu, last night I did reintroduce the resolution, and I hope we will have a robust debate and it will get marked up. Help can't come fast enough. The killing fields are every day, every single day, and we need to do more and do everything within our power to try to mitigate it. Let's not forget these horrifying facts. Northern Nigeria, and this is just northern Nigeria alone, has seen the destruction of over 18,000 churches since 2009. 18,000 churches. I saw 5 of them, totally burnt out, and many people killed with car bombs and the like. An August 2024 report from the Observatory for Religious Freedom in Africa found that 55,910 people were killed and 21,000 people were abducted in the context of terror groups in Nigeria within just 4 years, from October 2019 to September 2023. I would point out that approximately 34,000 are moderate Muslims that have been murdered in Islamic attacks, and we speak out for them as well. I have met with imams in Nigeria, and if they speak, they're visited that following week by one of these radical Islamist groups, and it's not pretty. They'll kill them or do other kinds of mischief. About 5 million Christians have been displaced and forced into internally displaced person camps, IDP camps, within Nigeria. The 2023 watch list released in January by Open Doors this past January found that 89% of Christians, 89% of the Christians who were martyred in the world are in one country, Nigeria. The targeted violence starkly highlights the precarious state of religious freedom in Nigeria. Again, we're asking the president, Tinubu, he's got to take action. And we're going to, I'm hoping to lead a delegation to Nigeria. We've got to raise these issues, but it starts at the top. I've been to Abuja many times. The president has real power. He can do it. And we're calling on him to do that. Let me also say that and I will put the rest of my statement into the record, but this hearing, we're hoping will be a catalyst for action by our own government and also by Congress, and of course, above all, the executive branch. You know, the new president has a lot to do, and I think he'll do this, and then, if necessary, impose sanctions. Where that has happened, there is change. Where it doesn't happen, the status quo, the killing fields continue. I'd like to yield to Ms. Jacobs for any opening comments you might have.